tell him before I logged on.
Oh, well, we're doing it now.
Yeah.
That's okay. Hello, and welcome to the February Ops Coaches Call. We're us, your ops coaches, Dr. Dave Osborne, Coach Monica Cahalan, and Coach Jeffrey Harwell.
Hello.
Answer your questions submitted so judiciously,
Okay.
dutifully.
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 I like dutifully.
That, yeah, I like that. That's a good adjective. Submitted adjective?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
probably.
just good. Yeah.
Grammar's weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll just use it.
Depends.
I'll just use AI.
Yeah.
Where we answer your questions,
Maybe.
possibly, or I go off on tangents. Either way, we're gonna have a fun time. We got a big list today, so we're gonna kick it off with the fun one. Our first topic of the day, first topico of the day is schedule deloads, pros and cons. Jeff, would you like to kick this off?
Yeah. I want to
Thoughts?
answer this. Pause.
No,
What'd you
no,
say?
thoughts.
Oh,
Thoughts
thoughts. Yeah,
on the
thoughts.
subject.
I don't typically program scheduled deloads, unless there's like a meet or something coming up, something like that, or a planned vacation, something along those lines, a life event. What I like to do is, well, I mean, I have, and this is, we'll go into this a little bit later. Like I have my lifters send their lifts in every time they train. So I'm constantly looking at them. I'm constantly seeing how they're moving. I'm seeing their face when they're finishing sets, all that kind of stuff. We're talking on a daily basis or a training day basis. So I can get a pretty good feeling of when they're ready for a deload just by their body language, how things are moving, et cetera, et cetera. So I like to do that more reactionary with my clients. But it's still relatively scheduled. It's about every 6 to 8 weeks, give or take. Some can push to 10, but yeah, I mean it's relatively scheduled. But yeah, I don't like the 4 week block. I don't think it's productive. I think when you really think about it, sit back and look at it, there's usually about 2 good weeks per 4 week training block that you're really, you're getting in those 4 weeks. So you break that out, that's 28 good exposures a year. That's not enough, in my opinion. So that's how I look at it.
I like it. I like your viewpoint, Jeff.
Thank you, Dave.
Monica, do you have thoughts on the planned or scheduled deloads?
I don't do them either. I agree with pretty much everything, and I know that we do a lot of similar things and have different ways of coaching and stuff too. But I couldn't agree more with what Jeff said, and I Dave had me do kind of a pre planned. We ran this thing for a little bit where it was like a speed week, um, moderate weight the second week, maybe like triples or something, and then like a heavy load, double or single on the third week. And the speed week, the first week, kind of can either turn into a deload or we would, but sometimes you push so freaking hard that you can't even do the speed week. And so, long story short, we tried a couple of different variations of a planned deload situation, and it turned into what Jeff just said. A really unproductive block of time where I just beat the hell out of myself and needed like that week, maybe a week and a half to recover from how hard I pushed because I knew that deload was coming. But I can't say like technique didn't get really better. Maybe my strength got better by virtue of just doing more things, but I think we've had better results with reactive deloading and stuff too. For me, in my athletes and stuff, a lot of what Jeff was saying is why I would give somebody a deload is like something maybe they have they're prone to tendonitis or something like that, and those things start showing up when certain things become crabby and stiff, and mobility and normal stuff isn't kind of cutting it. And that's usually when I decide to do that. And I have lifters that are very different too. Some need, that average of 4 to 6 weeks, and some can push 10 to 12. It's crazy.
I
just
actually wanted
depends.
your opinion on something, Monica. I had
Yeah.
another woman coach, I guess, yeah, a coach asked me a question about if I schedule around menstrual periods.
I
What's your
don't.
thoughts on that? Yeah.
And that's like and I but the cool thing is like all my women athlete will report to me and kind of tell me how things are
Yeah.
going and what it feels like and stuff. And most of the time, lately especially, I've had a few of them, actually one this week that said like, I'm even on day 2 of my cycle and this is abnormal to be this strong and this great.
Is
And
it
so
is it
I
abnormal?
don't think it's necessarily abnormal. I think it's that we subscribe ideologies to things, and then so therefore we just use it as either a reason to sandbag, excuse our performance, not take responsibility for good recovery and stuff. Like maybe they ate like shit because they were feeling emotional, and that has a catastrophic, trickle down to our performance. So I think there's a lot of attributing factors to why our cycle gets blamed for things, or poor performance or needing to deload on that week. I don't think so at all. In fact, I believe, if I could probably go digging for it, but I believe there's studies that show that we're our strongest on our first day of our cycle. We might have more fatigue leading up into it, but I do believe that I should probably look that up. Because I've had this discussion a couple times with people. But it's yeah, I don't plan that as a part of my programming or deloading or anything at all, because I've seen people do harder things under harder circumstances, and this is just a regular part of what we do, our
Right.
bodily function, our monthly thing that we can anticipate happening.
Right.
So yeah, that's a good question, Jeff.
I would
Thank you.
agree. I would agree with Monica on that.
Yeah.
It doesn't ultimately matter. And I think it's much more of a individual mindset kind of a thing. And I think the people that look at that time of the month as being a time where they're more fatigued and they're tired and not strong, that's them. And they go and look for that bias that
Yeah.
says, oh, this is supposed to be harder for me right now. Where what I've seen in practical application is the people that don't treat it like a burden and it's just what it is have better training results.
Right.
And don't see it as a time to pull back, especially like if we're talking with regularity, the same thing with like a planned deload, right? If it's getting in the way of their progression during their training cycle. To comment, you just pulled a deadlift PR, right?
Mhm.
So that training cycle that we didn't help with that.
A while ago.
It was a while ago. Oh, interesting. Because I believe we just had a conversation this week about how the off season
Is very important
is
too.
very important.
Yeah.
And what we're doing 12, 16 weeks prior has a very real effect of what we're doing now and that everything builds. So I don't know if I would say it was unsuccessful. I would say it was unsustainable
Sustainable. Thank
for
you.
you.
Thank you. That's a way better word.
Um,
Speaking of good words.
yeah. I when it comes to planned deloads, right? Like we've all mentioned on here, we are high frequency communication coaches because we recognize that if we were working with our clients day to day, we would be in person, we would be able to see their fatigue and what adjustments we would need to make to the training plan on that day. Online, when we coach lifters, it's the same thing. We're teaching them auto regulation. And so when you have auto regulated training cycles, it seems silly to me unless the purpose is of the training cycle to be deloading on that fourth week and pushing for 3, deload 4. If you're auto regulated, why do you need to deload? Right. Okay. If the block itself was very high intensity, right, or a higher volume or results in a peak performance, I sure, and they're thrashed, totally. But like Jeff alluded to, that's really tiring over a lot of repeated blocks. And you get to the point where a week's deload, if you're pushing hard for 3 weeks, isn't going to be enough because that's constantly pushing up, 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 up in the hope of like, oh, fourth week, I get to take it easy. but then it's a very fast and aggressive progression over 3 weeks. Where if you spread that deload time out, you can have a much longer training block with a more average training intensity and volume that's spread out a little bit more over time. And now you have increased training density, right, over the course of 6 to 8 to 10 weeks with maybe one full deload in there and little recycles in between versus three deloads after very aggressive training blocks. And especially as athletes get older, or their competition experience kind of goes up, those really short aggressive training blocks can get too aggressive. And then we're dealing with overuse injuries, injury management, right? Little tweaks here and there that we're having to adapt to. So I remember when I was working with Josh Bryant, that's how it was. It was 3 weeks pushing really hard, fourth week deload. For me, it worked really well because I knew that deload was coming. I'd push really hard on that third week. Sometimes I'd have success, right? Other times I'd push a little bit too close to the sun, and that deload week would get me close to back all the way. But then I had a really aggressive week one, and then I'm fighting things. And, I got injured, right? Hurt my shoulder, tore a pec, right? Things happen. None of that would ever be my coach's fault, right? I'm the one who chose to push up and got aggressive with it. But it is something where it's a much faster, generally a much faster time to peak. And if you have a bunch of fast time to peaks, right? Like you're not spending a lot of time in a good training density range. You're sitting really high on the upper end and just kind of pushing gas to the pedal the whole time, which is hard to hold on to for a long period. You get maybe a fucking year of like pushing pedal to the metal, but then what's going to happen on the back end? Right. And it's going to skew that out a little bit. So there's times to it. Like if you're working on, if you don't have that much time left in the sport, you feel like, and you really want to push that last little bit, yeah, you can get aggressive with those blocks. But just like Jeff alluded to, you're spending a lot of time in the year not training hard.
Yeah.
And so I agree. I prefer to spend more weeks training harder, not my absolute hardest, right? But building good training blocks. And then when I feel that fucking, the ship's starting to shake a little bit, the bolts are coming out a little, deload. Ideally before that a little bit and kind of feel it coming, and that's a trick.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think it also fosters better coach athlete communication. And it's really easy there's a lot of people out there that I would call programmers, not coaches. And it's really easy to send someone a 4 week block, maybe do some check-ins once a month or something like that, and then send them another 4 weeks without checking in with the athlete enough times to really see if that 4 week block was achievable and not just running them through the fucking meat grinder over and over and over. That's what I tend to see happening with programming people is they run their clients through that meat grinder over and over and over. If they survive, great. If they don't, well, too bad.
Yeah, that brings up a good point of like why that auto regulation and variations and being able to pivot to different accessory groups or different bars or different movement patterns, to prevent people from getting to that point is, that's, yeah. I think if you navigate the back off stuff and the variation stuff really, really well, you can kind of use that to your advantage and not have to blow people out a lot of
like we said, during competition, right? Yeah, there's scheduled deloads in there. But for sure.
For a reason.
Yeah, to guarantee, right? Like you're ready to peak. But I don't think that needs to exist in postseason, off season. Yeah. Unless they want to do a silly meet. Hey coach, this cool meet popped up, and can we do that? It's in 3 weeks, and I know I hurt my shoulder last week, but I think I can get ready in time. Great.
Let's do it.
All right, let's go to our next question. That was good. We chewed on that. We got all the marrow out of that deload bone. How big of a caloric difference should there be on training days versus non-training days if following a carb cycling diet? I'm going to let Monica kick this one off.
It depends on how active. It depends on a lot of things. Obviously, I hate saying that. I know
Uh,
it depends.
Pop out.
Every nutrition question. For me, when I'm dealing with clients, a lot of times it depends on how active they are on their off day. How much that caloric difference is. Meaning, like, are they in an active day-to-day job? Are they on their feet, moving around, chasing kids around all day? Or are they at a desk, sedentary? Um, And so that caloric difference can be anywhere from like 250 to 500 calories easy. And sometimes even more, just depending on how extreme. Like my Sunday, for myself, my Sundays are really sedentary because I'm sitting at a desk programming and stuff compared to a normal day where I stand more and move more than I sit, and couple that with a training day. So,
How
um,
what's the caloric difference between your low carb day and your high carb day?
I haven't even mathed mine
How
because
much?
I just follow up my
Well,
plan.
where,
I
what's
think
the
it's
gram difference in carbs?
in my training day versus my non-training day, it's 300 grams of carbs difference.
Yeah. So 1200 calories.
Yeah. And then I have a refeed day though too. I have two refeed days in a week, and those are like 700 grams of carbs a day for those two, and they're back to
So
back.
the two high
Yeah.
days
Is extreme compared to my
is
lowest low.
is another there were 700.
Yeah.
So another 350 grams, it doubles it
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah.
So another
I have two low days, two high days.
1500 calories.
Yeah. Three low days, two refeed days, and two high days.
Well, I would call the refeed day the high day and then two medium days.
Yeah. But so it just depends on the athlete and where they are and what their goals are, right? Because carb cycling can exist the entire time, whether you're gaining weight, losing weight, or
Yeah.
maintaining. It's actually the most efficient way to use the fuel that we have without with very where we can use the energy balance system, right? Energy in, energy out. So we're consuming enough calories for the demands of the day, the tasks, training, recovery.
Yeah.
And so that principle is always applied, and it really varies because some people can be way more active and still not need as many calories as somebody that is really active and needs three times as many calories. It has to do with their metabolic rate, their, age, their sex, whether they're on drugs or not. There's so many different factors, but there should be enough of a gap. Like there should be in that gap in carb should be taking place in your carbs mostly. The carbs and fats being kind of swapped for your, high training days, high activity days, more carbs, lower activity days, really low carbs, higher on the fats. So
Good.
they're just, yeah,
Thank
has
you.
to be enough gap.
Jeff?
Yeah, as Monica kind of, you know, chewed this all up. I'll just talk to mine. I've been working with
Good.
Monica since December now. And right now, yeah, 300 grams of carbs difference between training days and non-training days. Protein's about 20 grams higher on non-training days, and the fat's about the same. So that's what we've been working at. And my weight's at 253 right now.
Which is
Hey.
Coming
perfect.
up.
Can I
Yeah,
can I shout out about you real quick?
sure.
Because you're such a model client. You're like my ideal client.
Yeah, yes.
And let me just beef up, Jeff here because it's all him. I just got to be the here, do this, and everything will work out. And he just jumped on the ship and took over. Like he's totally responsible for his results. But the initial goal was to lose about 10 to 15 pounds.
Yeah.
And he did that so well, like right on track, really smoothly. And then we maintained that for about 6 weeks. And that was the goal there too, was just to hang out there and let your body adjust and become a fuel burning machine, which it did because over the last 3 weeks, I've slowly kind of bumped his calories up strategically to give him enough fuel, a little bit more fats to help his recovery a little bit more going into his peaking for nationals. And the goal was to put on 5 pounds and 5 pounds initially over a really slow course of time. And he's like, "You're so perfect." Like the first week was like 2 pounds. Then it was like two and a quarter pounds, you know, and it was like, and now we're like, you're gaining it back on so well. And in your physique photos, your progress really show a difference too in what's happening in your body. You become so much leaner in your torso and through your lats and stuff, and now you can really see all the definition showing up as you're putting weight back on.
Right.
And I think that's the funnest part about shifting out and back in is like every time you diet down and put some muscle back on strategically, it goes on so much better.
Yeah.
It looks better. It's more quality, you know, it just, yeah. So Jeff, you're a freaking rock star. You're so good. You're like 100% gold star.
Make it really easy, and the food's really easy and good. So I mean, it's easy. It's just follow the plan. It's really
Yeah, and we had one little hiccup with like adding in too much fiber too quickly. Made
yeah,
an
yeah, that was
adjustment.
rough.
we
But no,
we
it's
learned
perfect
real
now.
quick.
Yeah, that was a week.
Oh,
My belly.
Oh, it was so bad. But yeah, that we adjusted that 1 week later, and it's been fine. I've been eating every week since. So it's great.
You've just done really good, and you're a really model example of like how carb cycling can work really well. Because yeah, you're just science in action, mister.
science. It's action science.
Action science.
Be fun 12
Um,
eating about size of Dave. So
You guys are gonna meet in the middle.
it's
not
gonna
no
be,
one's gonna be able to tell us apart.
it's gonna be hilarious.
Yeah. You get bigger and Dave's gonna get smaller.
Yeah, I would say like, if you're carb cycling and trying to gain weight, the numbers will probably be a little bit tighter and not as big of gaps from your low, medium, high days. Um, when you're trying to recomp and maintain at that same weight, you can get a little bit further apart. Like Jeff's especially talking about, having a or Monica 300 gram difference in their carb intake from low to high. That's, it's 4 calories per gram, right? So it's 1,200 calories. It's a big jump. And then when you are cutting, I think it's that much more important to have big swings between those two and make those low carb days really low carb, higher fats and proteins. Your moderate days are still pretty moderate, and then maybe a refeed day or one higher day throughout the week. Or if you have a high metabolism, you might need two. Um, the high metabolism is people that have that fucking Chihuahua energy and they just vibrate all day long. And that's why their metabolism's high. They're literally vibrating, right? Their non-exercise activity is through the fucking roof. Yeah, and so I think another good point you guys touched on is like these calorie values and these macronutrient values are not static. They're never static. And they need to be updated pretty frequently, especially as weeks change. And some weeks you're going to have more to do and a higher workload than other weeks. And the diet should be able to adapt with that. And that's the value of having someone doing your nutrition, is that diet plan is adapting with you. And I think that's something that a lot of apps fuck up, and give base recommendations are on that really dick it around, or we get stuck in trying to overeat too much protein, like trying to get that gram per pound of body weight, which is over what you really need, right? It's great when you're cutting, and need some more protein to feel satiated, right? But at the same time, like even when cutting, you need to be manipulating your carbs and your fats likely more than your protein. And protein can sit a lot lower when carbs are higher.
And Jeff's a really good example too of like why that system worked out really well, because I think a lot of times people cut down, they lose the weight that they're going to lose, and they forget that you kind of need to exist there for a while. Otherwise, when you reverse diet back up, you're just going to get fat, and not really give your body the opportunity to um, create homeostasis for a minute.
Good. Talked about carbs. Okay. The next question is should I send my coach training videos? This is for online coaching. Should I send my coach training videos as soon as possible? Or should I take a day to collect my thoughts on the session and then send them? I'm going to start. You should send that shit right away. Right after you're done training, edit those fucking videos, trim them up. As you're trimming them up, go through each set, label the weight. This is what it felt like, a little rundown of the session. Do that right after you train. We want that session to be as fresh in your mind and all the little details of it as possible. That's a real reflection on it. You may spend some time thinking about it as you drive home and everything else, as you're cooking dinner, your post workout, whatever it is, or getting ready for the day. But the longer you wait to send that check in, the more things you're going to forget that are relevant details. And you're not going to spend the actual time post training when your brain is making these new adaptations with your motor pathways reflecting on your training session. So you're missing out on motor skill development by not having spending that little bit of time thinking about your training session, how it went, and overall, and what went well, and what you want to work on, and everything. That should be your first priority after training is going through those videos, get a little post workout shake in you, whatever it is, going through those videos, reflecting on your training, and sending that to your coach. If you wait to do that, you are not getting the same benefits as if you had sent it right away. And on top of that, it gives you time to possibly talk to your coach right after that training session and get further development and awareness, right, of how that training went versus waiting a day and then having all that conversation happening about the previous day's training spread out that much further. The further we get away from that initial training event and as we report it and as we reflect on it, the less we get out of it. Jeff, do you have thoughts?
Did you write a paper or a
Oh, you know what it was? It
what
was
was it?
what I got a doctorate
Oh,
actually
doctor. Okay.
thinking about, on this very subject and the data that I analyzed seemed to show a ridiculous significant effect of post-training coaching interventions. Talking with your coach right after training in a digital online environment. Digital online is repetitive.
Yeah, on top of like yeah. I think you nailed it. Same thing I expect from my clients and what I do as one of your clients. I sit in my car after the training session, trim it all up, send it over to you. This is what I was working on, this is what I was thinking, da 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 da, this is how it felt. Um, and then just sit there and wait for your feedback, basically, or drive home or whatever. Um, it depends on what time of day it is and what day it is. But yeah, that's exactly what I expect from my clients. And I'm at a point where a couple of my clients, like I know exactly when they're training, and I don't have personal training clients at the time, and I'm okay, it's a personal training
Yeah,
session.
send it, right?
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's right then and there, and it's we can make corrections every set as opposed to, the next week or whatever it may be. But yeah, send it. Why not? That's what you're paying us for.
Totally.
Come on.
Totally. Um, yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's really fresh. And for me, on my like if it were me, I would want that feedback right away because I'm obsessed with it and I want to like know the ins and outs. And it kind of blows my mind when people don't send their stuff right away because it makes me think they don't really care. In my luckily I don't have that issue right now with anybody.
You will.
Everybody's really great and they give really good feedback. Yeah, but it kind of blows my mind. It's like I want to help you. I want to help these people. I want to guide them. I want to give them tools to do better. And being that it's online, there is a little bit of a barrier compared to what I get to do in the gym with people in real time. If something's not working out or something's stiff or immobile, it's like, cool, let's walk over here and do it together, before we come back and do this again. We don't have that opportunity, online. So it's like the closest we can get to that is, be as efficient as timely as possible, as close to the session as possible, so that we can make real-time changes actually happen sooner.
Yeah, I mean, that's the benefit of a high frequency coaching schedule, right? If your communication schedules after every training session, like that's your make use of it, right? I get it. Some people train, crazy early in the morning or another time zone or super late at night, and it's going to be a few hours. But even then, it's still really important that you do it at that time and not wait. Like, even if you were doing a once a week check in, you would still be filling out your training sheet, right? Like that day afterwards, after you finish your workout, and have that reflection process on that training session then. And then at the end of the week, you send it all in. It's the same thing with a high frequency communication schedule. Is that's you filling out your training log, is messaging your coach with all your stuff. It's the same thing.
Yeah, and we want it. We want it.
Let me help
Let me
you.
help you.
Oh my God, why can't you let me help you? Good. So we all agree.
See.
We have consensus.
Surprising.
Ugh. Keep waiting for Jeff to talk some shit and like, no, I don't think of that at all.
This is like the first time we've all agreed on every single thing.
I'm going to be devil's advocate on this.
I was just gonna say, like, here we go, though.
How much rounding through the back is too much on the deadlift? Jeff.
Well, I did a lot of studies yesterday with a protractor. So what I looked at was between 36 degrees and 42 is like
Fucking
really
hilarious.
You're so funny.
anyway. It depends on what part of the back we're talking about.
Upper back.
Oh, thoracic.
Yeah, T-spine
Um,
rounding. Good point. You could talk about that too.
it depends on the body type. It depends. I mean, what's a French boy's name who's like super rounded and all that?
Yes, but can
Like
stand up with 1,000,000 pounds real
yeah,
quick.
it depends on the body type and how strong they are, I guess. I don't, I have a hard time answering. I thought this was about like what section of the back you were talking about, but yeah, don't round your lumbar, clearly. That's
Clearly.
yeah. I mean, there's your injury prevention. If you want my tip of the day, don't round your lumbar back or lumbar spine. Um, but yeah, it depends. Yeah, that's my answer.
What a coach. What a coach's answer. It depends. Do you have thoughts, Monica?
I like to look at when I'm kind of watching people move and considering, how much is too much and when to make that correction and stuff. Is I like to pay attention to the shoulder position and relative to um their ankle, and making sure that their shoulder isn't coming back behind the bar or staying too far forward. So I think a little bit of rounding is okay through the upper part of the back, as long as that shoulder is staying in line with the foot and there's no and they're staying pretty stacked in it. You have to be able to lock it out, right? And part of the shoulder position is part of that. So that's the final piece when you stand up in a deadlift, is that shoulder position. And so, hi, Dave.
There you go.
So, when you stand up with the deadlift, when you lock it out, that shoulder is the final position. So my eye is always kind of looking as a ref too, like ankle, knee, hip, shoulder. I'm just kind of scanning up, and that's the final one. So I always think of that when I'm looking at upper back, to see if where's too much is too much and safe, unsafe.
Good. Unsafe. I think a lot of it depends on why the upper back is rounding. Is the upper back rounding because the upper back musculature cannot hold extension or even a neutral range of extension? Is it just immediately moving into flexion because the upper back's weak? In that case, upper back rounded on the deadlift is not okay, because it's a muscular weakness that's creating that postural deficit. And the other part is too, is if you operate in the knowledge that it's okay if my upper back rounds, and then you still at the same time, like, my hardest part's my lockout. Well, when the upper back rounds, it's making off the floor easier. And then when you get above the knee, that rounded shape now has to move through a larger range of motion to come up into extension. And so you've traded ease off of the floor, especially in something like a conventional deadlift that's already easier off the floor than sumo. Unless you just have a big giant back and can muscle through that, I don't think it's a good trade-off. At the same time, it's really easy to have too much extension in that upper back to the point where you've shortened your arms. And that's not that much better either because you've created more range of motion at that point. And so to me, I think you should be trying to create as much space between the chest and the hip as you wedge with extension through our sternum that still holds our arms long. We don't shrug up, right? We don't pull up into the bar, making the arm shorter. To me, I feel like there needs to be a balance with that, with how much extension's having in the upper back, that the slack should be out of the bar when the hips wedge into it, and holding the majority of the shape the entire time. If you overextend so much that you pull that chest up and your butt sits too low, and then you get dragged forward and your upper back rounds and comes up, I wouldn't even call that a rounding of the back issue with deadlift. I would call that just a bad wedge, that you're heel biasing, your hips are too low. And so a lot of times I think people think they have upper back issues or back shape issues on deadlift because their hips are too low or their upper back is too weak. In the cases, if it's like Kaler Woolham or something like that, or a huge freaking deadlifter, and they're pulling 800 plus and that upper back rounds a little bit to do that, but they can punch it right through and never have lockout issues, I don't think it's a big deal. It may cause fatigue in other areas, and bench and squat might be affected to that to some degree with that upper back. But yeah, I think it's likely with beginners a muscle mass issue in the upper back, or trying to keep too much extension so that their hips end up setting too low. And it's rarely just upper back rounding that's the issue, and just kind of wanting to pull like that. I don't think it's a great way to pull when that upper back caves right off the floor. I don't think it's worth it to trade speed off the floor for a worse lockout position. And it's better to learn to be able to hold that shape and strengthen that back.
Yes.
And those were the factors I was saying it depends on. So thank you for.
Yeah. So I just, instead of saying depends, I just listed out what it depended on.
And that's why we're a team and we help each other out. So
It's pretty good. It's very helpful. Well, it depends. Yeah, it depends on this.
it's called an alley-oop, Dave.
Oh, yeah, I dunked it.
Yeah, that's what I was
If I could leave the ground high enough to jump and dunk, that's what I would have done.
13 weeks. It's gonna
You
happen.
alley-ooped me when I got a trampoline that I could spring off
Oh,
of.
you're so funny.
Slam ball.
One of my favorite things I've gotten to do in powerlifting is, as far as like watching people move and stuff when it comes to body mechanics, was the nationals we were at in Vegas. I got to hang out the last day, which was all super heavyweights, and talk about like watching interesting ways that weight gets moved. That's the day. Because you're going to see everything: wide stances, wide grips, rolling the bar into where it gets stuck on the thigh and why. And, like, man, that's a really interesting just thing to watch as far as like body mechanics go. You will take a lot away from it just from hanging out and watching a whole day of that.
And some people too have a really long torso.
Yeah.
And the longer that torso is, if you're pulling conventional, that's a really hard shape to hold. Or if you have crazy long legs and a shorter torso, that can also be a wonky shape to hold. So yeah, it also depends on like anthropomorphic makeup of the lifter and like their joint size relative to blah 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 blah. Another way to look at it. Yeah, I like to think of it as don't let your weaknesses stay weaknesses. And if your upper back rounds to a degree when you come up off the floor and it makes your lockouts harder, don't tell yourself it's okay to pull with a round back. Make your back stronger. Oh, okay, this is great. Here we go. We're getting to the weeds here. Do you think it's better to have fixed training days or to have flexibility in training days over the course of the week, aka a 7 day training split that is always the same 7 days of the week that you're training, or a 10-day split that rotates. Monica.
I've done the 10-day split. If you
Yeah,
remember a couple years
I
ago,
hated it.
I know. And I was having a really hard time with my schedule getting my training in. And there was a lot of things that I was trying to get done at the time. And so I did a 10-day split in order to get cover all my bases. And that was a really hard concept to get behind because we operate on a 7-day schedule. So I think it's cool to know that that exists and that's a possibility at certain times. I didn't love it, but I was able to get the things done that I needed to for the block of time that I did. I'm a huge fan of setting yourself up for success with being prepared, and you are prepared when you know what's coming. And so I'm a huge fan of having fixed times that you adhere to, and even if they're shorter than you'd like them to be or not going to be, your best session, you give it your best for the day while you're there at the session that you chose to be there for. I don't like it when people are like, I'm just not feeling it today, so I'm going to roll it into this other day later in the week. And it's like, cool. So now we've got 3, maybe 4 days of no training now, and we're trying to stack it all at the very end of the week, which does terrible things for recovery and progression. And it's on as a coach, it's kind of frustrating because it's like, man, you're leaving so much off the table because you're just trying to cram it all in here at this because you didn't plan accordingly and you didn't make intentions to adhere to the program that I designed so beautifully for you. But that program only works as well as you execute it and you get the recovery that's needed in between those sessions. So I like, and of course, life happens. We all have families, jobs, kids, things like that. And we do our best, sorry, to, and we have to navigate around those. But that's the best part of having consistency in place is that when you have a moment of crisis or difficulty, it's a lot easier to get back on the wagon because you have so much consistency under your belt already as far as like training capacity goes. And and it makes it so much easier to get back on the wagon because it's part of just what you do. And when it's a scheduled thing that you've made a personal appointment with yourself to train at that time, when you don't go, you feel the difference and it feels like you missed out on something. And that's the way it should be. That's a part of if you're taking this seriously and you want to, and you're asking questions of whether a 7-day or a 10-day split is, good, bad, or indifferent. These are the things that matter. No matter what you do, it matters that you do it consistently and you show up. So I say fixed.
Yeah, 7 day.
7-day,
Okay. Better.
better.
Okay. Jeff.
Yeah, if the question's my opinion on which one is better, I would say 7 day. Um, on the other side, it depends. If you have higher strength athletes or, someone who has, you know, unpredictable work schedules with a lot of aspects of it that build up fatigue, like that 10 day can work out for them if they are consistent with it,
Yeah.
right? And that's the big part of it. That would be the only time I would say it could be better. But yeah, Monica took every word out of my mouth. Oh, we have so many of the same
Say
thoughts. I
so
wonder
many
why.
things in
But
common.
um, but yeah, I prefer a 7 day split over a 10 or something, anything over that, obviously.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think 10 days are a concept that works great with high travel work, or split shift work, or
Yeah.
rotating schedules where you don't know what your work week is going to be. I don't think a 10-day split is good for people that have regular 9 to 5 jobs, that are the same days of the week every week. Um, I think those people need to look at their schedule and stick to it and find where training is going to work. Is it going to be after work? Is it going to be before work in the morning before you get there? And stick to it. And it doesn't fucking matter if you don't feel good when you show up to train that day, or it's hard, or whatever it is. Let it be that.
Yep.
Just let it be that then. Good. Finish the session to the best of your ability and move on. The concept of like, oh, I'll make this up later is dumb. Like,
Yeah.
why bother? Why add more to your plate later? Because it's just going to affect your recovery on the back end coming into the following week. And so, yeah, I think a lot of times people are not honest with themselves in how busy their week really is, and what time they actually have, and they just don't spend it well. And part of training is discipline, and giving yourself the time to train and enough time to train consistently is part of your development as an athlete. And if you're always trying to move your training schedule around or wait for days you feel good, you're not going to be all that thrilled with the results of your training. Because part of training sometimes is training on days you don't feel good and just still moving and getting through it. Give your body something to adapt to and let it know that, like, I don't care if you don't feel good, body. We still are going to train today. And I'll probably feel better by the end. Or I won't. I'll be a big cranky mess, and that's for coach to deal with.
What a good point, though. Like, I want to see that though too, and I think some people think that we only want to see like the good
No,
stuff that they're
totally.
producing. Please show me the shit too, because I
Yeah.
need to know that that's happening also. Like, I want to see what that looks like. I want to see what you move like under fatigue, because that gives me data to serve you better too. So I'm all for it. Like, show me your worst day. Let's go.
Yeah.
I'll make you feel better.
Yeah, totally. Like, oh, good. That's the fatigue monster showing up. Let's fight it back a little bit. Put it back in the closet where it belongs, or back under your bed, wherever your fatigue monster goes. The boo box.
The boo box.
The boo box.
It's definitely the boo box.
Definitely the boo box.
Yeah, and that just goes back to what we were talking about earlier, is what constant communication with our athletes, and we don't have those reactive or planned deloads where, like, yeah, we see all this stress adding up, we can reactively deload, and like that's yeah, being
Yeah,
in the course now.
1000%. Well, I think that was a great talk about how awesome we are and how smart we are and how we know everything. Don't you think? Oh, obviously these.
Sure, everybody feels smarter now.
Yeah, all three of these experts agreed on every dang question. Man, they must be really obvious answers.
We need some more polarizing questions. Is that what you're alluding to?
I don't really like them.
Squat depth.
Squat
What
depth?
is- Squat depth.
Squat depth
Squat
is,
depth. What is
polarizing?
That's a polarizing question. Let's talk about
boy.
that.
Well, all I know is if you don't hit depth, you're a terrible person.
Yeah.
And should be excluded from the group, made fun of online, right? Like, clearly your depth in squat is a reflection of your moral character.
Yes.
And people that have terrible depth just don't have any integrity and just really, are just here to make the everyone else suffer. Really, got to excise them like a boil.
Well, I disagree. And I'll
Yeah,
tell you why.
Oh, there's some disagreement out of you, finally.
Finally.
Thanks for playing.
They're
Thanks for playing,
upstanding
Jeff.
citizens, and- No, I'm just joking. Anything else? Terrible, terrible people. All of them.
Yeah, all of them. I don't even know what that's like.
Always hit depth.
I feel like if you're going to squat high, just put a box under you. That way no one knows.
Yeah. It's fine.
Toolbox.
Toolbox.
Toolbox. It's fine.
That's the box that I wanted to squat to. That
Yeah.
box. As high as
Medium.
I wanted.
Yeah.
As deep as I wanted to go.
Little bit knee bend.
This is the 25-week box. Next week will be
Yeah.
Sit down.
It's up to my chest.
That's where it's at. Range of motion manipulation. Excellent. Well done, coaches. I think that went really well. Thank you everyone for watching. This has been the Ops Coaches Call. Tune in next month where we shit talk and answer more of your questions again.
Yeah.